Hello, good morning guys. Welcome back to our virtual class discussion. This is a pre-recorded video lesson for our quarter 2 module number 4 video lesson. So module number 4 is entitled Simplifying Expressions Involving Rational Exponents. And for this module, we have the following objectives to accomplish. First objective is to simplify expressions with rational exponents. The second objective is to write expressions with rational exponents from exponential to radical form and vice versa. So to start up with lesson number 1 entitled Simplifying Expressions Involving Rational Exponents using rules number 1 and 2. So going back to our 3 lessons in module number 3 of this quarter, you were taught how to simplify the various expressions involving loss on exponents. So shown on the table below is a summary of the basic loss on exponents that we could possibly use in simplifying expressions involving rational exponents later. So to recap of the few laws of exponents that we have discussed in module number 3. So the first law is the product rule. So product rule states that when we multiply powers of the same base, we simply add their exponents. Ano makita nimo nga base x exponent m plus n, i-add ra exponents when we multiply powers of the same base. The second law of exponent is the quotient rule. It has 2 cases. The first case is when the exponent of the numerator is greater than the denominator. So when we divide exponents of the same base, we subtract exponents, and it just so happened in the first case that exponent on the numerator is greater than the denominator. That's why the result is base x exponent m minus n. The second case of the quotient rule is when the exponent of the denominator is greater than that of the numerator. So the result is 1 over base x exponent n minus m. So ang ruling ana sa Bisaya pa, ang kanisya, ang exponent nga gamay nga nasa numerator gamay no siya sa exponent sa denominator nga naa sa ang exponent nga dako nga naa sa denominator. Okay. The third law of exponent is power rule. If the base has already an exponent m and is raised to another exponent n, the result is base x exponent m times n. So if duha ang powers, i-multiply ra ang duha ka powers. The fourth law of exponent is power of a product. So the power of a product is, it states that the exponent m is to be distributed to the product xy. So the result is base x exponent m times base y exponent m. So distribute ra ang exponent nga m sa x o y. The fifth law of exponent is power of a quotient. So it states that a quotient x over y is raised to exponent m is equivalent to the numerator base x exponent m over base y exponent m. Or the other way around, if the quotient x exponent m over y exponent n is raised to exponent p, so duha na exponent, no? This is power of a quotient at the same time power of a power. So we distribute the power of the exponent p sa numerator x exponent m o sa denominator y exponent n. So nahitabo, the result would be numerator base x exponent mp over base y exponent np. The sixth law of exponent is zero exponent. So for any base, either a number or a variable except for 0 na base, when raised to exponent 0, the result is 1. And the last law of exponent that we have discussed in module number 3 is when the exponent becomes negative. So for any base x raised to a negative exponent n is equivalent to 1 over base x raised to exponent positive n. So, para mahimo siyang positive ang negative exponent n, i-transfer rin siya sa denominator. Or the other way around, for a quotient of x and y that has negative exponents, the result would be interchanged, no? The numerator is transferred to the denominator and the exponent n becomes positive, while the denominator y raised to negative exponent n is being transferred to the numerator and it becomes base y raised to exponent positive n. Interchange siya to make their respective exponents positive. So what's new for this lesson? So the previous learning we had in module number 3, how are we going to answer the following questions relating to exponents in this module? First question, how are we going to simplify expressions with rational exponents, especially if the base is a number? So rational exponents, from the word itself, rational, so it could either be a fraction or a whole number. The second question, what process are we going to take in order to get the exact value of a base which is raised to a fractional exponent? Okay. Take note. Be familiar with the perfect square and perfect cube na table. This one. Nani siya pa grade 7 and grade 8, no? List of perfect square and list of perfect cubes. So, you have this also in your module. We have 15 numbers that are being squared and 15 numbers that are being cubed. So, ang mga result ano niya, mga perfect square, mga perfect cube. So, this table of values is useful para sa inyong pag-answer sa succeeding activities later. So, how are we going to do this? For us to simplify expressions involving rational exponents, we will apply the following rules. So, rule number 1 of the rational exponent. When a base is raised to an exponent that is a fraction, we will convert it into its radical form. In symbols, base x raised to exponent 1 over n is equal to the nth root of x exponent 1, such that the numerator 1 of the fractional exponent 1 over n will serve as the exponent of the base x nga nasud sa radical symbol, and its denominator n sa fractional exponent 1 over n will serve as the index of the radical expression kanina sa gawas, kanang number nga kanang n nga nagawa sa radical symbol will be our index of the radical expression where the base is either a number or a variable. So, in representation, ang ato ang base din kay variable x. Note, if the denominator of the fractional exponent happens to be 2, you don't need to write 2 as an index since 2 is the smallest index. Rather, it is held imaginary. Ang pinakagamay nga square, ang pinakagamay index is 2 man, square root. So, we'll try example number 1. The given is 36 raised to exponent 1/2. So, sa buhaton na niya. Gi-transform into its radical form. So, ang fractional exponent nga 1/2, ang 1 is the exponent of the base 36. Kaya ang base, again, 36 the base. 1/2 is the exponent. Pero pag rewrite niya into its radical form, nanay radical symbol. So, ang base kay 36, then the numerator 1 becomes the exponent of the base 36, while the denominator 2 becomes the index. So, inanda lang ka sa iyon. Or, it can be rewritten if ato ni i-simplify, pagbasa niya is square root of 36. Understood man kung exponent niya 1 good as wala raman siya. But on the succeeding solution, we change 36 or we express 36 as 6 square. Diba? Kay perfect square man 36. So it can be written as 6 exponent 2. Okay, 6 square is 6 times 6. So that is 36 exactly. So, basta magkapariha, mag-atbang na ganina ang index 2 o ang exponent kay 2 sad, that cancels. that brings 6 outside the radical symbol. Okay, ang square root of 36 is 6, either positive or negative 6. So that would be our answer. Number 2, 343 raised to exponent 1/3. So sa ibuhaton ani, unsay number nasod sa radical symbol? That is 343. Mao na siya ang base. Then the exponent of 343 is 1. While the denominator 3, it becomes the index. Next, express ang 343 as 7 cube. This should be cube, ha? This should be cube. Dili siya square root of 7 cube. That is cube na siya sa ilo. So 7 cube is 7 times 7 times 7. That is exactly 343. And that cancels our index 3. 3 na siya. Dili siya 2 pa sa ilo. So cancel ang index 3 o exponent nga 3. Magawas ang 7 because 343 is a perfect cube. The root is 7. The second rule on rational exponent. When a base is raised to an exponent that is a fraction, convert it into its radical form in symbols. X exponent m over n is equivalent to parentheses the nth root of x. So again, the base, ang sod sa radical symbol is ang base x. Then our index is n since it is the denominator of the fractional exponent. And ang numerator nga m, siya ang exponent gawas sa parentheses. Such that the numerator m of the fractional exponent m over n serves as the exponent of the base nth root of x. And its denominator n serves as the index of the radical expression where the base is either a number or a variable. So sa kanitong representation ng atong base kay x. Okay. So example number 1. Our base here is a number that is 49 and is raised to an exponent ng fraction 3/2 or 3 over 2. So how are we going to rewrite that one into its radical form? So same gihapon. Following this format, ang denominator nga 2 will be our index. Then ang sud sa radical symbol is the base 49. Then obviously ang numerator nga 3 mao ang exponent gawas sa parentheses. Next, we will try to resolve ang naasud sa parentheses. We read that one as square root of 49. Actually, supposed to be pwede dili na siya isuwat ang index nga 2, but since for clarification lang kay mag-wonder nyo ba nganong, sir, kung walay index, sir, unsa pasabutan na index is 1? No, the smallest index is 2. Either imo isuwat or dili isuwat, it is considered nga pinakagamay index is 2 gid na siya. Even if wala na siya 2 di na sa gawas, still ang pagbasa na is square root of 49. So what is the square root of 49? Okay, we rewrite 49 as 7 square para makita nimo ang cancellation sa index nga 2 o exponent nga 2. So ang square sa 49 is 7 man, no? So 7 na name habilin. Mugawas na siya sa radical symbol. But still, the exponent outside the parentheses 3 is still present. Nagya po na siyang cube. So what in by 7 cube? 7 times 7 times 7. And that is exactly 343. So that will be our final answer for example number 1 using rule number 2. Example number 2. The base is a negative number, negative 64, raised to exponent 2/3. So what shall we do? So the denominator 3 is our index or cube. Then the number inside the radical symbol is negative 64 since it is the base. The exponent is 2 since our numerator is 2. Muna na ang gawas siya sa parentheses. Next, gi-rewrite ang negative 64 as negative 4 cube. Okay, negative 64 is a perfect cube. Okay, negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 is equivalent to negative 64. Nasabtan ra ba? Negative 4 cube. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Positive 16 times negative 4 is negative 64. So, ang hint lagi ana kung pila ang index, ang pag-rewrite sa base should be a smaller number raised to a number nga parallel po siya sa index. Since our index is 3, so expected nga ang exponent sa base negative 4 should be 3. So makancel na ang exponent 3 o index 3. So nabili na lang negative 4 and the exponent outside the parentheses, which is 2. So what is negative 4 square? Or the square of negative 4? That means negative 4 times negative 4. And that is exactly positive 16. Ano? So importante kayo yung parentheses, no? Kung wala ng parentheses sa negative 4, ang ibutang nimo ang exponent nga 2, nagpasabot ang square ana ang 4 while labot ang negative nga sign. In this case, the negative sign is inclusive of the number 4. So pares gina sila, it goes with each other. So nagpasabot once naa siya sa parentheses, ang square ana is ang negative 4, dili ang 4 lang. Okay, nasabtan? Okay. So for your activity on what's more, you will answer activity 4.1, test A, items 1 to 6, and answer activity 4.1, test B, items 1 to 6. Okay, next. We'll jump into lesson number 2, simplifying expressions involving rational exponents using rules number 3 and 4. So what's in? We have learned in lesson 1 of this module the process of transforming expressions from exponential form to its radical form in order to get the value of any expression whose base is an integer and whose exponent is in rational form, meaning fraction. Para ganina. How about if the base happens to be a fraction or its rational exponent is negative? What process are you going to undergo in order to simplify or evaluate the said expressions? O, lahi na sad karon. Ganina sa lesson 1 ang atong mga base kay puro whole number, no? Nya yung exponent kay puro fraction. What if ang atong base kay fraction or ang ato ang exponent, rational exponent kay fraction no itong exponent, no, kay negative? What will happen? So what's new? Similar to the laws of exponents presented in module number 3, negative exponent rule sa module number 3 can be used in simplifying expressions involving rational exponents. So, look back ta sa module number 3 about negative exponent rule. Gamiton to siya sa kaning lesson number 2 sa module 4. So, how are we going to do this? For us to simplify expressions involving rational exponents, we will apply another set of rules. As I've said, we make use of the negative exponent rule. Rational exponent rule number 3. When a base is raised to an exponent that is a negative fraction, apply the negative exponent rule, which states that in symbols, base x raised to negative exponent n is equivalent to 1 over base x raised to positive exponent n before converting it into its radical form. In symbols, this one. Example ta. Atong base din kay x nya ang iyahang exponent kay negative fraction, negative m over n is equivalent to 1. Following negative exponent rule is equivalent to 1 over base x raised to positive m over n, and that is finalized as 1 over anaso sa radical symbol, writing into radical form anaso sa radical symbol is ang base x, wherein ang atong denominator n will be our index and the numerator m will be our exponent outside the radical outside the parentheses. If you will recall, naano siya sa rule number 2. Rational exponent rule number 2. Okay, example ta. Number 1. 64 raised to negative 1/2. Since our exponent here is negative 1/2, negative ang fraction ha, sa buhaton, dapat himo sa siyang positive. So making use of the negative exponent rule, sa kani x raised to negative m over n is equivalent to 1 over x raised to positive m over n. So kani dapat mahimo na siyang 1 over 64 sa ubos raised to positive 1/2. Muna siya ang first step. Kita mo? First step ni siya. Next step is gi-suit radical symbol. So 1 over. Ang nasa radical symbol is ang 64. Then ang denominator nga 2 siya ang index. Ang numerator 1 siya ang exponent gawas sa parentheses. Nakasubay? Okay. Next. That is equivalent to 1 over index 2 radical symbol, then gi-express ang 64 as 8 square. Kaya 64 is a perfect square man, no? 8 times 8 is 64. 8 square means 8 times 8. So, makancel ang index 2 ug exponent nga 2. So, magawas ang 8 sa radical symbol. So, ang numerator kay 1, ang denominator kay 8. Ang 8 mo tanaka, sir, asa ang exponent ng 1 day, sir, gawas sa parenthesis, dapat parenthesis 8 niya na exponent 1 sa ibabaw or sa gawas, di ba? Understood man nga if the exponent of the base is 1, wala rin po yung mahitabo. Still 8 po na siya. So the final answer would be 1 over 8 fraction. Second example, 36 raised to negative 3/2. First thing to do is to inaog ng 36, no, para ma-positive ang exponent niya 3/2. So 1 over 36 exponent 3/2. Dili na siya nagtupong ang 3/2 sa 36 ha. Okay, sa computer magana siya. So dapat exponent ibabaw siya sa 36. Kung gamayon siya pagasuwat, 36 exponent 3/2. So positive na exponent. Next step, isuot sa radical symbol, i-rewrite from exponential to radical form. So that would be 1 over index kay 2, since our denominator is 2 and the base is 36. The exponent outside the parenthesis is 3, since our numerator is 3. Next, that is 1 over the square root of 6 square. Kaya 36 can be expressed as 6 square. 6 times 6 is 36, no? So makancel ang exponent nga 2, index nga 2. So magawas ang 6 na lang. Yan na pa exponent 3 gawas sa parentheses. So na mahitabo 1 over 6 cubed. Either you will write parentheses inclusive of 6 or pwede gyapon walay parentheses. Usually mabutang rag parentheses, no, kung ang base kay if the number or if the base is negative. But since di mo siya negative, so pwede rin walay parentheses. Manang 6 cubed na siya. And 6 cubed is 6 times 6 times 6. And that is exactly 216. The numerator is 1. So the final answer is 1 over 216. Okay. Lastly, rational exponent rule number 4. When the base happens to be a fraction. Karon, ganina kaya itong mga base whole number. What if ang base na ito kay fraction, sir? And is raised to an exponent that is also a fraction. Apply the power of a quotient rule. Namdam mo sa power of a quotient rule. So, ang exponent or the power outside the parentheses is distributed sa quotient, sa numerator or sa denominator. Or simply apply rational exponent rule number 2 and convert it into its radical form in symbols. This one. Para mas sayon, gamito na to ang rational exponent rule number 2. For a quotient x over y raised to exponent m over n that is equivalent to ang denominator sa exponent kay n, mo na siya ang index. Then suits radical symbol is ang quotient x over y. Then in close parentheses, ang m is our exponent since siya man ang numerator. Diretso using exponent rule number 2, rational exponent rule number 2. Sample tani. our base is fraction 27 over 64 is raised to an exponent 2/3. What will happen? So, following the rational exponent rule number 2, okay, first is to write the radical symbol. So, ang such radical symbol is ang base nga 27 over 64. Then, the index is 3 since ang atong denominator sa exponent kay 3. Then, the exponent outside the parenthesis is 2 since our numerator is 2. So, always gina ang numerator siya ang exponent. Ang denominator siya ang index. What will happen next? Okay. Sir, ano himo ng 3 cube o 4 cube, sir? Okay. Para makancel sa index nga 3, we need to rewrite or express 27 and 64 as a base and an exponent. Nga, kung mabalik ta sa table of values, 27 and 64 are perfect cube, wherein 27 can be expressed as 3 cube, 3 times 3 times 3. While 64 is also a perfect cube, wherein it can be expressed as 4 cube, kay 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So 10. So in this case, the index 3 can be cancelled para sa exponent nga 3 o exponent nga 3 sa numerator o denominator. So what will happen? Cancel na sila. So what will happen? Magawas ang 3 over 4. So, magawas siya sa radical symbol. Kay 27, 64 are perfect cube man. So, ang cube root sa 27 is 3, cube root sa 64 is 4. Then, ay kalimti ang exponent nga 2 nga naagawa sa parentheses. Dili siya pwede mawagtang. Ipasabot, i-square pa nato ang fraction nga nasu sa parentheses which is 3/4. That means 3/4 times 3/4. So, the result is 9 over 16. Kay 3 times 3, 9. 4 times 4, 16. So, that would be our final answer. Example number 2. Base 1/4. Kada example number 1 nga 27 over 64, pwede po na siya i-enclose o parentheses, no? Kay base niya masabtan mo ba nga ang gi-raise o exponent nga 2/3 kay 27 dara. So, dapat appeal po ang 64. So, we will change this one. For a while, 27 over 64. Sud sa parentheses. Okay, para maklaro. over 64. 27, 64, then the exponent is fraction, which is 2/3. Okay, going back. Okay, dara. So that would be the correct one. 27 over 64 as a base should be enclosed inside the parentheses, pero di siya ma-misinterpret. Okay, to proceed, example number 2. Same po ang example number 2. 1/4 as a base is enclosed inside the parentheses. Is raised to a negative exponent 1/2. Ganina itong exponent kay positive. Karon, what if ang atong exponent kay negative? So, balik ta sa rule number 3. Dapat mahimo siyang positive 1/2. Unsay buhaton? Okay. Para ma-positive ang exponent nga negative 1/2, kinahanglan ang base o exponent mo naog siya sa denominator. So that is equivalent to 1 over. Di mausab ang iyang base ha. The base is still 1, positive 1/4. Ginaog siya para ang iyang exponent mahimong positive 1/2. Dili ang base. So, in this case, ang 1/2 is already positive. So what shall we do next? We will express base 1/4 raised to exponent 1/2 as a radical. So money 1 over the square root of 1/4. So ang susunod radical symbol is 1/4. The index is 2 since ang denominator is 2. The exponent is 1 outside the parentheses. Nagawas kanang 1 since our numerator is 1. Next, we rewrite that one as 1 over the square root of 1 square over 2 square raised to exponent 1. Kaya nga naman, ang 1 o 4 kay puro perfect square. Ang 1 pwede ma-express as 1 square, kaya 1 times 1 is still 1. Then ang 4 can be expressed as 2 square, kaya 2 times 2 is 4. So 1 square over 2 square is still equivalent to 1/4. Gihimo ni sinani para makita na to nga ma-cancel gyud ang duha ka exponent nga 2 ngadto sa index nga 2. So therefore magawas ang 1/2 as a denominator. So to rewrite that one, that would be 1 over 1/2. Then sir, asa naman ang parenthesis nga napama-exponent nga 1? As I have said, if the exponent outside the parenthesis is 1, good as wala gyud pinahitabo. So pwede rag wala siya ang parenthesis o exponent nga 1. But if the exponent is greater than 1, like 2, 3, 4, 5, kinahanglan ang parenthesis kay lahi man ang value kung ang exponent mas dako pa sa 1. So what will be the result of dividing 1 over 1/2? Ang 1 divided by 1/2 should be 2. So pila ka 1/2 day sa 1? 2 gyud. Okay. So for your activity on what's more, you will answer activity 4.2 test A, items 1, 3, and 5 only. Then activity 4.2 test B, items 1, 3, and 5 only reset. I guess that ends lesson number 2. We'll move on to lesson number 3, writing expressions with rational exponents from exponential form to radical form and vice versa. So what's in? You have learned in lesson 1 and 2 of this module the process of transforming expressions from exponential form to its radical form in order to get the value of an expression whose base is either rational, pwede siya whole number, pwede po base, and whose exponent is written also in rational, either whole number or fraction. So to recall on this one, katupat ka rational exponent rule, rules 1, 2, 3, and 4. So rule number 1 and rule number 2, if you remember. Then rule number 3 and rule number 4. So sa rule number 1, the exponent is 1 over n. Inanire pag-rewrite. Then rule number 2, the exponent m over n. So kaning m and n are representing numbers greater than 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Inanire pag-rewrite into its radical form. While rule number 3, negative exponent rule to make it positive. Then rule number 4 is this is power of a quotient. The base is a quotient while the exponent is also a fraction. They write gihapon based on rule number 2. So what's in? Most likely these rules will be useful in our next task in rewriting algebraic expressions involving rational exponents from exponential form into its radical form and vice versa. So magamit niya tong upat ka rules sa rational exponents. So first topic sa lesson number 3, how do we rewrite from exponential form to radical form? When transforming expressions in exponential form to its radical form, remember that an exponent applies only to the factor or the base it is directly next to unless parentheses enclose other factors. Muna kong gigon ganina, kung ang negative nga number dili siya ma-enclose og parentheses nya gi-raise nimo siya og exponent either 2, 3, 4 or any number nga exponent nya wa siya parentheses, nagpasabot ang exponent is directly next to the number way labot ang sign. Pero kung naa siya parentheses nga naka-enclose sa negative nga number, ipasabot ang kanang negative nga number mo ay raised to that certain exponent. So with this, we use rule number 2 denoted by the expression base x raised to exponent m over n is equivalent to, from exponential to radical. So, the radical symbol, ang base kay x, ang atong index kay n, since our denominator is n. The exponent outside the parenthesis is m, since our numerator is m. So, we will use this format in rewriting from exponential to radical form. So, yun na ni siya. Example number 1. Ang nasu sa parentheses or ang base kay 8a square. So, mahog siya monomial, no? Then, it's raised to exponent 3/2. So, ang base na to kay monomial 8a square. Dili kita pwede mabuwag. So, mauna atong isuwat-sud sa lisod ha. Sila ang atong isuwat sulod sa radical symbol. So, parentheses, automatically parentheses gina siya. Then, our index is 2 since our denominator is 2. Then, so radical symbol is 8a square. Then, ang exponent kay 3 since our numerator is 3. Inana ra ang pag-rewrite from exponential to radical. So, sayon ra no. Example number 2. The base is y square raised to exponent 3/4. So, sa may tabo. Okay. Ang nasunod radical symbol is obviously y square, y laing number. Then the index is 4, kaya atong denominator kay 4. The exponent is 3 since our numerator is 3. Ano lang ka-simple. Then next, how about number 3? The given is 4m n raised to exponent 2/5, p raised to exponent 4/5. So, sa kaning nga example, kinsa ra may naay exponent? Ang variables n og p ra. So, pila na exponent sa 4 og m, sir? Ikaw, pila may exponent sa 4 og m? As you can see on the screen, automatically, imaginary ang exponent sa 4 kay 1. Ang exponent sa m kay 1. So, maka-idea ta nga, kanang 4 og m, dili gid siya masulod sa radical symbol kay iya may exponent kay whole number man. So, dapat, ang makita ready ay nga naasulod sa parenthesis sa radical symbol is ang katong mga base nga na ay fractional exponent. So that would give us the answer 4m. Ang nasunod sa radical symbol is ang n og p, wherein pareho man sila og denominator no nga 5 og 5 ang n og p. So ilang index kay 5. Then the base n has the exponent 2 kay ang numerator niya kay 2. Then, ang p, ang numerator kay 4. So, therefore, the exponent of p is 4. Or, the other way around, pwede mo isuwat nga 4m in close parentheses, index 5, fifth root of np. Then, the exponent outside is 2 4. Pwede ba na siya? At pwede pa buwagon? Dili pwede buwagon ang exponent sa n og p. Dapat nisabay gud siya sa variables n and p. Dili siya pwede suwaton di ay nga pareha ani. Inani rin siya kung ang ato ang base kay naginusara ra nga variable or number. But when it is composed of many variables already, dili gina pwede ibuwag ang exponent sa iyahang base nga variable. Dapat uban gud sila. So, mao ra gid siya ang final nga answer. Last example for this portion. The base is a binomial. Ang number 1, 2 ug 3 puro monomial. Ang number 4 kay binomial, 2a plus b in close sa parentheses raised to exponent 2/3. How do we rewrite this one? So ang suits radical symbol is 2a plus b. The index is 3 since ang denominator nato kay 3. The numerator is 2, so therefore ang exponent kay 2. Ano lang to simple. So the second part is transforming from radical form to exponential form. Ang bali. When transforming expressions in radical form to exponential form, remember again that an exponent applies only to the factor or base. It is directly next to unless parentheses enclose other factors. We will use again rule number 2 denoted by this format. Ang bali niya. So from radical to exponential. So the radical form is the nth root of x raised to exponent m is equal to the base x raised to exponent m over n. So gibalira no. Again, ang index nga n mao yung denominator, ang exponent nga m mao yung numerator. That is the process of rewriting into its exponential form. Example 1. The given is fifth root of 3y squared. So, unsay nasud sa radical symbol? Ang 3y squared. So, pangutan na. So, pila the exponent sa 3? Obviously, 1. So, therefore, ang base nga 3, doon na siya'y fractional exponent nga 1 over 5. Kaya ang ilang common denominator is 5. Meaning, ilang common index kay 5. Mao na ilang common denominator sa duha ka fractional exponent. And the exponent of 3 is 1, manang 1 over 5. Next is y, exponent 2 over 5. Kaya exponent sa y, so sa radical symbol is 2 over index nga 5. Ana. Sabtan. Next, number 2. We read this one as 6th root of 4 p square r cubed. So, exponent sa 3 kay exponent sa r kay 3, exponent sa p kay 2, exponent sa 4, imaginary 1. Ang ilahang common denominator or index is 6. So, inigre-write ang 4 doon exponent 1 over 6 kaya ang imaginary 1 man ang exponent sa 4 no. So, muna 1 over 6. Then p is 2 over 6 kay exponent sa p kay 2 over index 6. Then r is 3 over 6 muna 3 over 6. Asap 10. So, kada number o variable na adjust like common denominator nga 6 kay tanang numbers o variables suits radical symbol should have a fractional exponent. Example number 3, lahi sa nisiya. Naay number gawas radical symbol no for x. So obviously ang ilahang mga exponent kay 1 og 1. So pila may index ani sir nga wala may nakasuwat nga number? Pila may maka-guess ani? Kung wala index ipasabot ba na siya nga 1 nga index? Ay dili. When there is no index written outside the radical symbol, it means nga ang pinakagamay nga index nato is 2 and it is held imaginary. So manaa or wala na siya, understood na i-index kay 2. So therefore, when we rewrite that one, that would be in the form nga 4x kay kabaw ta ang exponent sa 4 og x kay puro 1. And then the denominator is 2. Kaya itong index din is 2. So muna yung common denominator. So therefore, the exponent of y should be 3 over 2. 3 over index 2. While z, ang automatically yung exponent niya kay imaginary 1 over index 2. Munang z, exponent 1/2. The last example. Okay. Inside the parenthesis is cube root of the binomial m plus n raised to exponent 2. So to rewrite that one, ang base is m plus n na enclosed sa parenthesis. Then the denominator is 3 since our index is 3. The numerator is 2 since our exponent outside the parenthesis is 2. So kabantay mo marag paparihara ang mga examples no, nagbali-bali ra. So number 4 pariha, number 3 pariha, number 2, number 1 paparihara. So para dili magtipog. So what's more? So for lesson number 3, you will answer activity 4.3, test A, items 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 only. Then for activity 4.3, test B, items 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 only said. Then for post-test, items 1 to 10, letters only. You need not to write your solution, but if you feel to write your solution, mas maayo ra po din noon. So thank you for listening to this video lesson. Hope this would have helped you in understanding this module. So for any questions, you can message me through Facebook Messenger. Thank you and God bless.